Hello YouTube, hello to my Rumble users if I post this there. One of the most interesting things is, let's say within millions and billions of years from now, let's say we somehow manipulate space-time itself to create curvatures that can allow us to get to a point that's 1 light year away or 1,000 light years away. Let's say that we can use algebra drives or wormhole travel by exotic matter to get through to millions of light years away. Let's say that humanity uses these methods to get through several different star systems. Alright, let's see how would they adapt to their own star system. And I think the characteristics of these here is that let's say for O to B type star systems, such as Beta Centauri, O to B type stars release high amounts of UV radiation, so I think the humans here would definitely have a lot of more melanin production and synthetic chromophores to adapt to the harsh UV radiation. Since the light here will be more on the blue spectrum, their irises may be much more smaller and specialized to filter out high energy heat. They may also have robust cellular regeneration and technological adaptations in the future, since if we can somehow change space-time itself, then we can use augmentations to help our own biological processes adapt to our own star systems. Let's say for this one right here. Now, these people here will be very much, way more adapted to handle radiation. So in this case, they have very much slit-like and very heavily shielded eyes. More closed eyes that are way more closed than mine. Let's say for this one right here. Think of this, but way smaller. Now, going to A to F type of stars here. These release less UV. They release moderate amounts of it. I think the people here would look very similar to the ones on Earth, humans on Earth. They'd have pale sun-sensitive skin, and they would be less likely to be burned, essentially speaking, by the UV. So they'd have medium to dark color tones for broad spectrum protection. They'd have very much larger eyes, but they're pigmented for the good low light sensitivity, and they may have favored smaller pupils than us because the star is much more bigger. Going to G-type stars, they're much more Earth-like, so they'd very much look like us, are indistinguishable from Earth humans. They'd still exhibit the same range of human diversity. Maybe they live in the equator, they have darker skin colors. If they live near the poles, then they'll have lighter skin colors, very much like that. But they may have a higher or lower bone density depending on the size of the planet. That's the only difference that I'd see if we managed to move humans to a G-type star system, for example. Now, moving on to K-type star systems. This one here, the humans here would have light that's peaked to more of the yellow-orange spectrum. Since the civilizations here will last way longer than the others that I said, the humans here would have very much pale or golden hued skin. Think of a golden brown waffle that you make in the morning, but think of it as having a little bit lighter color. And this human here would be an example of that. Right? Since there's minimal UV exposure, their eyes would be much more larger and more sensitive to UV, so it can absorb as much light as possible. These large pupils maximize light coverage. So their primary adaptation here is longevity and light capturing, since this civilization here can last for billions of years and there's less UV. So going down to M-type stars, if humans manage to adapt here biologically, then M-type red dwarfs would very much emit very low visible lights, especially in peaked in the deep to infrared. These planets here would be a little bit smaller than Earth, and they'd have very much saucer-like eyes, an increased number of rod cells that are maximized for light absorption. They may have a more darker eye color than ones that we have, and they may have thermal adaptation. So let's say, for example, if there's a heat signature on a wall, an M-type or K-type human could definitely see that. If there's like a fire burning on the other side of a door, M-type to K-type humans would definitely see that. They can detect heat signatures, especially on people too. Let's say, for example, if I'm blushing, a K-type or M-type human would definitely see that in me because they can detect chemical signatures and heat signatures because their eyes are meant to absorb infrared, for that matter. So very much here, going on to neutron stars and planet orbiters, we're talking about people who are on high gravity places. These people here would be very much smaller, but they'd be more denser and physically strong. Their planet has a high gravity just to compensate for the black hole or neutron star that they're orbiting. Their adaptations here are internal and technological. They would probably have bones with a dense bone structure along with a dense system that can adapt to the immense gravity of the star that they're orbiting, for that matter. They'd also have super efficient DNA repair mechanisms since the star itself or black hole emits much more radiation than any of the stars that I've been talking about here. And the humans here would definitely be a little bit more denser, so they'd have a uniform gray to lead type of color here. Again, it's kind of like a sheen color here, more shielded from radiation, essentially speaking. Since here they may have a natural human color because they're meant to be adapting to their own star system. Alright, so now we're going on to the questions of humanity and ethics. I'm reading from a script, obviously. I'm just checking my timer right now. I think one of the most important questions, at least I'm about to ask right now, is that if all of these humans were to come down onto some delegation on Earth, I think the questions would be, how did you overcome the gravities of your own planet? Considering that space-time and curvature travel and algebra drives are already possible, allowing instantaneous travel, if a catastrophe were to occur on any star system, how would we help them? What about for time dilation? What if on the way, neutron star and black hole delegates, especially with teams from their star system, they may take time as way more slower? How do we help them measure time on Earth? How do you solve problems? How is your culture like? How do you deal with problems, and how do you united humanity approach complex topics? Let's say from this example of someone trying to unalive themselves and drive their ship into a black hole. Or let's say from complex topics such as murder. How do we deal with stuff like that that happens on our own star systems and intergalactically? How do we deal with complex topics like those, especially for murders that happen on spaceships? How do we know what to punish them? What government do we punish them accordingly to? And how do we use infrastructure today to allow us to visit gravitationally complex systems such as the Cygnus X1 system, where there's a supermassive blue giant star along with a black hole without being compressed or spaghettified, if exotic matter can be used. We need to study the system to better our sciences, but we need to get close enough to study it without getting spaghettified or destroyed by either of these star systems. And how can we efficiently use energy from our own star systems, our black hole accretion, to power our own infrastructure even better? That's another question here. And what treatments, medicines are obsolete in this star system but are needed in the other? Do all of these star systems govern in Earth-like ways? Do you keep records from Earth and of your own governance? Do you keep records of who was in office? Do you keep records of what was happening then? And these are the questions that I think will be asked in this delegation, but we're going to jump onto a more Earth-based topic here, haha. Let's say that teens from these planets, teens they all visit for 1 year in a high school that's on Earth. I think one of the most interesting things, well, many of the interesting things I think would occur here is that I think black hole teen delegates, especially the ones who spend time at this high school on Earth, they think that time is going too fast because their time dilation over there is much more slower than that of Earth because the sun isn't a black hole. But because of the immense gravity of their own star systems, they're going to be experiencing that time seems to be going very, very, very fast. And especially, they might promise to meet up with someone in 5 minutes, but they might end up taking 500 minutes or even longer than that because they don't understand how time works on it. What might look like disrespect here is just a misunderstanding of time. What I think a next thing here is that K-type planetenes, since they can read infrared and are meant to absorb as much radiation as possible for UV absorption, they may act like Discord users looking at the light mode page for just 1 second. Because the sun emits so much more radiation, you'd expect K-type teens here to be wearing glasses all day whenever it's lunch period, wearing sunscreen all the time, because they'd also complain that they release too much radiation and they have no idea how Earth people are somehow surviving. And star system delegates would complain that Earth's light is too much or too little depending on the star system from that they're from. And I think that people from O-type star systems, they complain that Earth is too cold because their skin is meant to absorb so much more UV, since it's as efficient at absorbing at one that's where it's from an O-type star system. Since the sun is significantly lower on the star categorization, it's only a G-type star system, their skin will absorb very little radiation. They'd feel very, very cold because most of this radiation will be reflected away from them. So that's really interesting here. Most importantly, planet teens, especially for people who think time dilation goes much more slower for them, they may see college applications, drama, and things in the now as naive or impractical, considering that their own time dilation can allow them to look at a more time that goes a little bit longer than that on Earth. Right? Instead of them planning in like 4 years, they plan in like 40 years. They plan in like 400 years for that example, since time goes much more slower for them. Let's say, for example, a teen that's like 15, biologically 15 years old on a neutron star planet, they might have the skin of a baby on Earth, for that example. So they look very, very young because this is the effect of time dilation and how differently time goes. But since, for that example, we're going to throw something from myself. If I wanted to ever date one of these teens, I would date a girl coming from an F-type star system, from the HD 162 826 star system. The reason that I'd say this is that the HD 162 826 star system, assuming that humans move there, it's a star system that was formed from the stellar nursery as the sun. But it eventually moved away around 4.6 billion years ago to one that's pretty far away from our system now. So it was theorized. And the reason that I date a girl for coming from that star system is that I'd feel I'd have some sort of connection to her. Alright, because their star was formed in our stellar nursery but left, I would want to meet her because partially of that reason. And I know that she'd look way more bigger because the F star system there, they'd be more muscular and bigger. So in that case, I'd probably end up being a girlfriend to her, but like, whatever. But I'd love to talk to a girl from that star system, probably ask her out or something, but I'd love to do that. But I think the types of relationship drama that could probably occur here, talking not about my situation, but generally speaking, a neutron star teen who wanted to hug someone else from Earth might end up crushing their partner because they hug with an immense amount of force. All right, they hug immensely because their gravity, their muscles are meant for a planet that has much more gravitational force. On one where it's weaker, they're going to be way, 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 way stronger than, let's say, on their own star system. So they might end up crushing the person and end up accidentally sending them to the hospital. And black hole teen relationships may not even exist at all because the teen from there might see as time simply going too fast, ultimately seeing the relationship being immeasurable compared to their way of seeing time as. Ideological problems may occur in that star teens who prioritize more time for relationships, let's say for civilizations that last a long time in K-type star systems. K-type teens from there may see time as going much more slower, so they might see other relationships as being too fast or too rushed, and vice versa, essentially speaking. Even a simple kiss, in terms of ideological differences, in that a kiss might be seen as a rude gesture in one culture, while in the other it might be seen as a sort of honor or respect. But I think one of the most interesting things here is that imagine a boy who's meeting from a girl who's from a K-type or M-type star system. He's blushing, and the girl might end up saying, I'm detecting chemical signatures on your face. Does that mean you want to hang out and bring me to a game on Tuesday? And I'd be so like genuinely embarrassed at something like this, chat. Is that like imagine this? It's an unfair technological advantage that this girl would have. An M-type or K-type girl, she would be able to read my heat signature, essentially speaking. So if I ended up coming up to that girl and then I kind of blushed while talking to her, she would see it. She would literally see my face blushing because of the heat signature. She'd probably end up asking me, "Do you wanna maybe go for coffee next Monday?" Quote unquote. The reason that I say that it's like unfair intergalactic riz right here. I would be so embarrassed when if that girl ever said that to me, is because she can read me almost way too well. She can emotionally read me and she can also read me and connect that with certainty because she knows I'm blushing. And when she would say that to me, I would probably instantly fall in love with her so much. But I think in that situation, I'll be so embarrassed. I'll probably end up blushing more in front of her. But I think it's interesting here is that she has an unfair advantage here. She can read my senses. And new relationship. I call this intergalactic riz because she can act with certainty and just ask me out on the spot. But I would love that to happen to me. Just have a girl from that star system end up asking me, "I'm detecting you're blushing at me right now. You wanna have a date at this restaurant, quote unquote." I would low key join that relationship though. But other than that, enough on these tangents. I think all in all, I think this type of delegation here, especially considering if all of them spent 1 year at a high school on Earth, it'll be really interesting. There'll be a lot of questions that come from ethics, teen drama, and most importantly, ideological differences and different adaptations to their own star systems. Each one may end up in arguments, or some may end up agreeing, or some may end up being in compromises. So I think here I'll open up more on this video sometime later on. Just make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to, I already said it, so bye bye. Have a great day.